I'll make it even shorter so that we are able to get whatever we were supposed to share this evening. So my name is Lenny Kolam. I work with the International Safety Training Center as an occupational safety and health trainer and technical trainer. I'll give my colleague Naomi, she is here, some few minutes towards the end to also share about what we do as an organization. So I'll begin by our tonight, and the first objective will be able to help us understand the psychosocial work environment and the impact the psychosocial work environment has on safety and performance. Okay. I will also help us to understand how stress, burnout, and work design contribute to the entire psychosocial risk and hazard, and also the legal and organizational responsibility for psychosocial safety, then the modern workplace challenge, and lastly, I will conclude by how we are able to influence or to ensure that leadership has prioritized safety in the workplace. So I will begin by the definition of the WHO regards to safety. Because many a times, and I know Jay and Eric and every one of us, when someone asks you, are you safe? Are you healthy? You will say, yes, I am. And what comes to mind is the very fact that we are not sick. So you are not sick, therefore you say that you are healthy and you are safe. But the World Health Organization defines safety from a whole person perspective, not just the physical health, but from the frameworks of mental health and also occupational safety and health. So the very fact that we don't have a slippery floor or we don't have a faulty electrical equipment, we cannot say we are safe. The World Health Organization defines safety as the condition where a person is healthy in totality, the mind, the body, and all the various aspects of this person. So workplace safety is no longer just about the physical hazards. In 2026, our greatest risk to safety, performance, and well-being are mostly the ones that are invisible. Talking about stress, talking about pressure, talking about fatigue, talking about poor communication and toxic work environments. These are the greatest risks to safety in 2026. And therefore, it is very, very important as I begin to just highlight that organizations and individuals, and I know we have HRs here, and persons responsible for managing employees and talent acquisition must shift our focus from just protecting the whole worker, from just protecting the whole body, but protecting the whole worker. This is the theme that the International Labour Organization is buttressing this particular year. That organizations and individuals who are in charge of employee safety in the workplace must shift the focus from just protecting the worker's body to protecting the whole worker. And you'll be able to see from my slide that an employer can provide PPEs, can ensure that procedures are followed, can ensure that physical hazards in the workplace are controlled. But there's a particular monster that we are addressing tonight that cannot be controlled by physical measures alone. Talk about stress, talk about fatigue, talk about pressure that comes in the workplace, talk about poor communication and toxic work environment. This cannot be mitigated by physical measures alone. And therefore, that's why we are saying that our focus as employers, our focus as HR and compliance people must shift from just protecting the worker's body to protecting the whole worker. Look at these statistics. Kyla, you can confirm that my slide can be seen. Let me just confirm that. I know I've started. Jay, can you confirm that you can be able to see my slide?
Yes, I can be able to see them.
It's
Yes, I
moving.
can
Thank
see.
you. Thank you. I want us to look at these global realities. But before I begin, I want to start by a statistics that was done by the Youth Cafe, youthcafe.com. That is a Kenyan research center that did a research, and they said that 10 to 20%, 10 to 20% of the entire population in Kenya is suffering from a mental condition. My friends, that is around how much in number? That is around 5 to 10 million of the general population is suffering from mental conditions. And they go further to describe the various mental conditions. They talk about anxiety, they talk about depression, they talk about drug and substance disorder, they talked about bipolar and schizophrenia, which are very important aspects that any employer, that any person in charge of safety or any person in charge of employees in the workplace must consider. So the question that I want to ask as I begin, my friend Cleophas or my friend Baraka, are you part of the 10 to 15%? Look at the second statistics, 2.93 million. 2.93 million of workers die from work-related causes annually. 2.93 million. A research that was done by World Health Organization together with the International Labour Organization states that 12 billion working days are lost annually due to depression and anxiety. 12 billion working days. And we are talking about, ensuring that workers are engaged. We are able to get the maximum output out of the people we employ. 12 billion working days are lost to depression and anxiety every year. Another report that was done by WHO together with the International Labour Organization states that 1 trillion US dollars, 1 trillion US dollars, and I want us to think about this. How much 1 trillion US dollar can do kwa serikali ya Kasongo? 1 trillion US dollars, my friend, is lost annually due to depression and anxiety. Not to road accidents, but depression and anxiety. A research done by Gallup shows that 52% of employees globally reported feeling burnt out 2024. And therefore, the question becomes: are you part of these statistics? Sheila Njoki, 52%. Another report by WHO shows that 15% of working age adults live with a mental disorder at any point. So the question becomes, Eunice, how long have you been working? And are you part of these statistics, or are you headed at 3,600 kilometers per hour towards becoming this statistics? 15% of working age adults live with a mental disorder at any point. I think this is the reason why when I'm traveling in the morning in that Nakaski shuttle or city shuttle or any other kind of means you use to commute to work, every person in the bus is sleeping. And you ask yourself, if these people are not enjoying where they are going, what is wrong? 15% of working age adults live with a mental disorder at any point. Time will fail me to speak about the 3.95% of global GDP that is lost due to unsafe working practices and the 395 million workers who suffer non-fatal injuries and illness annually. And unfortunately, 35% of countries have national work-related mental health programs, only 35%. So the question that I want to ask us tonight, how is work? Charity, you are still in Maina. Skylar, how is work? Nancy Rory, how is work? Because this is the question that we must ask ourselves. How is work? And this is the question that WHO is presenting to us as we look forward to 28th April of this month, International Day for World and Safety. How is work? Is it hostile or exhausting? Is it demanding? Is it unfair? Is your work stable or precarious, unstable, and you feel like anytime you may lose it? Is it rewarding or unfair? Is it meaningful or pointless? Is it creative or monotonous? Is it appreciated or invisible? Is it collaborative or isolating? Because these questions, we must ask them because they reveal whether work is supportive or stressful. It reveals whether work is fair or exploitative. It reveals whether work is engaging or draining. And therefore, I just want you to use this time, 30 seconds, just with one word to describe how is work. I know most of us are employed here or self-employed. So you can use one word to describe how your work is. Is it stable? Is it rewarding? Do you feel you are respected? How is work? And I'll want to see our comments before we proceed. How is work? Who is going first? How is work? I'm checking the chat box. We still have nothing. How is work? Creative, okay. Baraka will want rewarding. Jay, isolating. Now Jay, we need to help Joy. Naomi, we need to help Joy before we conclude. We can keep the comments coming. Jay, you will tell us about the rewarding part. Brian Ngeno, how is work? Faith is saying collaborative, very nice. Brian is saying rewarding, a bit stable but monotonous. Kebaso Brian, creative, nice, and many comments that will come all along. I stated this, and I will repeat again. As we define a psychosocial work environment, WHO defines a psychosocial environment as a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, because life in itself is full of stress already. You spend many hours in the jam, 9 to 5, it's not easy. But WHO defines psychosocial environment as a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and finally, to be able to contribute to their community. So from this definition, can you define your work as a proper psychosocial environment? Because the psychosocial work environment is defined by how work is designed, how work is managed, how work is experienced, so that when Jay is talking about fulfilling, and when Baraka is talking about creative, and when Joki is talking about isolating, it is an experience that determines whether employees feel safe, supported, and valued, or overwhelmed and disengaged. And therefore, when an organization, when the human resource manager cannot answer the question that we have asked ourselves, whether work is enjoyed, whether work is experienced by people, whether people feel supported, whether people feel valued, whether people are feeling overwhelmed or disengaged, then they are operating with unmanaged psychosocial hazard that can bring serious consequences to the people that they are working with. So what are the key psychosocial hazards? And I'm rushing because of time. I'm sorry, I spent a lot of time trying to organize myself. Sorry for that. So what are the key psychosocial hazards? We have harassment, including sexual harassment in the workplace. Poor physical environment where someone has been given a very funny chair that does not have adequate back and lumbar support. Where we don't have where we have poor organizational justice, where job demands are very high, where there's conflict and poor relationship between employees, where there is violence and aggression, where there is bullying. And I heard about another story of bullying in the workplace, where there's a person when alikuwa amefungua biashara ya Shylock, giving loans to people in the workplace. So in the event that you don't pay your loan on time, anakuja together with his sponsor, they take you, wanakupeleka to another forest, and then they knock you seriously. And therefore, people were not able to talk because there were no opportunities for employees to air their grievances. And therefore, the bullying continues. And therefore, the harassment continues daily on a day-to-day basis. If you're not able to pay the loan on time and with good interest, what comes? The bouncers come, pick you, knock your nose, and then you slowly go back to work. So bullying is something that is very, very, very detrimental to the psychosocial health of employees. The issue of fatigue, and I want to bring us a case study of an accountant working for a teller or a bank. He's a bank teller who has been given serious and impossible targets. A bank teller in a branch in Nairobi CBD. There are security guards present. There are CCTV. There's a panic button that this employee is able to press during an emergency. She has been provided by good ergonomic chairs. There is an air conditioning system. There is a dispenser with very good water from Keringet or from Aquamis, depending on where they source the water. There are no physical injuries at all. But now the bank has introduced a daily cross-selling target where every teller must sign up to 5 new mobile banking users a day. 5 new mobile bankers users a day. If they don't do this, they must explain in writing why they failed. And therefore, the workload becomes too much for this bank teller. The performance pressure becomes a lot on them, because the workload has been doubled, but the resources are still the same. And therefore, the teller who has worked in the company for 10 years now start experiencing panic attacks. Every morning before work, they experience panic attack. She can't sleep. Every time she remembers that it is about to get to 8 a.m., fear and dread hit her, The cells hurdles. They develop high blood pressure from constant demands that are coming each and every day. The second example that I want to give, and I know I'm supposed to wrap this up, I will be able to share the notes as I conclude. Security guard on a night shift. This security guard has been given a very warm sentry box where he can relax, He has been given a torch. He has been given a good reflective jacket, and the gate is very sturdy. And therefore, physically, he's protected and he's safe. But this security guard on the night shift works 12 hours night shift, 6 days a week, without rest, but alone. He has no relief, he has no job rotation, and he has no human interaction except the few cars and the few people that he will come and wave to. And therefore, the only support he gets is from his supervisor, and it's negative support, actually, because the supervisor only calls him when he has missed a checkpoint by 2 minutes. So this particular security guard has not seen his children. He has not seen his children awake for 2 months. He has become severely depressed and starts drinking daily. He becomes a DDO, a daily drinking officer, because of the psychosocial environment that has been presented to him. The last example I want to give is an example of a young employee, let us say an intern, in a modern public relation firm in Westland, or in a law firm in Westland. Oh, my friends, the physical environment is very good. A clean kitchen, free chai, and most of the time, interns are being paid by tea. There's a beanbag. There's an ergonomic seat that she can rotate, and enjoy his time in the office. But the pressure in the office, the fatigue that comes in because he receives work at 4:55 p.m. and is told that this work is due tomorrow at 8 a.m. And therefore, this intern must push herself to work 14 hours a day to be able to meet the targets. And if this is not enough, she has to get to her house at 8 a.m. somewhere in Utawala or somewhere in Kasarani or somewhere in which other place my friend Kiprona can I use? At night, a lady at night, because of the job demands. And therefore the risk becomes she develops severe anxiety and an imposter syndrome because of the working 14 days. And so violence, aggression, bullying, poor support, traumatic events, fatigue, lack of role clarity, where someone is not able to understand a role because someone has not even been given a job description. So work is coming from all sides. And therefore, this person experiences what we call burnout. And the question that I want to ask us as I near my conclusion is burnout a personal weakness or a workplace design problem? That one we can debate until the cows go home. But clearly, burnout is a psychosocial hazard as classified by the WHO because it presents itself across three distinct dimensions. Number one, emotional exhaustion. This is complete depletion of both psychosocial and physical energy, where someone is at work, but they are extremely exhausted. The aspect of depersonalization, where someone experiences what we call emotional detachment and cynicism toward work and colleagues. They are detached. They do not want to be engaged with the work. And lastly, reduce accomplishment. Have you had scenarios where someone goes home or you go home and you ask yourself, by the way, today I've done many things, but what exactly have I done? Reduce accomplishment, where you feel that you don't have any accomplishment. What's that particular work? Burnout. The second one is stress. Workplace stress refers to physical and emotional responses that employees experience when job demands exceed their ability to cope. You have given someone a job that they are not able to cope with. And manage workplace stress is not just a well-being issue, it is a performance and safety risk that can be linked to impairment of judgment, that is decision making, reduce attention and focus, and slow down of the retention time. And the International Labour Organization make a very profound statement in their team this year. They say that stress, fatigue, and poor communication are as dangerous as an unguarded machine. You see that machine that has now ceased to become a cutting machine and is now amputating people's hand recklessly in the workplace. There is no difference between that amputating machine and stress and fatigue and poor communication when viewed from a psychosocial point of view. So stress is very detrimental. And lastly, I want to talk about workplace bullying and harassment. This is repeated unreasonable behavior. And I want to conclude. Skylar will allow me kindly to conclude in 5 minutes, kindly. I know I should have concluded earlier. Bullying. This is repeated unreasonable behavior that can be directed to a worker or group of workers, therefore creating a risk to health and safety. Those behaviors, verbal and emotional bullying, rumors, where you have given people names in the workplace depending on the shape of their head or the size of their forehead or depending on where they come from, Shiro Gashie. Because Shiro stays in Gashie and now she brings all the man from Gashie into the workplace. So mnampea jina depending on where they come from. Belittling opinions, where a supervisor can say something that is belittling an employee, Statements like, is that all you can do? This work, even if I gave my 3-year-old boy, would have done better than you. Those are belittling opinions. Exclusion, humiliation, physical threats, harassment. Harassment can be defined as unwanted conduct that include all areas of workplace harassment, including sexual and physical harassment. Quid pro quo, where a supervisor demands sexual attention from a junior employee so that to be able to receive a promotion or to be able to to receive special attention in the workplace, quid pro quo harassment, microaggression, bullying, ageism, where you discriminate someone in the workplace depending on their age, whether because they are old or because they are young. Job shaming, body shaming, threats, discrimination, exclusion. These are harassment that we as people, as a people, and as people who have been entrusted with ensuring that employees and workers are safe must take account of. Cyberbullying, where someone can post offensive content on social media or email. So what are the impacts of workplace bullying and harassment? Number one, mental health. This leads to depression and anxiety. It leads to panic attacks and most of the time, low self-esteem. Because someone is not able to be courageous enough because of those particular instances. Physical health, where an employee suddenly starts feeling headache, fatigue, digestive problems, high stress levels start coming in. And lastly, professional impact, where there's decreased productivity, increased absenteeism and presenteeism, where someone is present in the workplace, but their productivity has significantly reduced. And lastly, high staff turnover. So bullying and harassment are very detrimental psychosocial hazards that we must address in any particular workplace. So what is our legal obligation? What is our responsibilities as employees? What is our responsibilities as HR and people in charge of compliance in the workplace? What is our legal obligation? What is the business necessity? And I want us to go and read Occupational Safety and Health Act of 2007 together with the Employees Act of 2023, because these ones are able to guide us on what is expected of us as employers, as employees, and people in charge of safety and talent acquisition. Psychosocial safety is a legal requirement under National Occupational Safety and Health Framework. It is a leadership responsibility for management, where management must set the tone, must set the organization culture, the work design, the behavior, where employees are able to observe to ensure there is a conducive psychosocial environment for all. And therefore, investing in psychosocial safety also delivers measurable return on investment. We are able to receive fewer incidents, lower absenteeism and presenteeism. Employees are able to be retained for long, because one of the reasons why employees are resigned from work is because of stress, because of depression, because of anxiety, because of the various psychosocial hazards that we have been able to talk about. So there is also a return on investment when management, when the human resource and people in charge of talent acquisition focus on not only the physical safety of the employees, but also the psychosocial safety. So the question that we must ask ourselves, is the organization compliant? Can we audit our policies going forward? Does the organization have a dedicated sexual harassment policy that meets current legislative requirements? Do we have a standalone bullying and dignity at work policy that is separate from the general code of conduct? And I know that most individuals and most organizations do not even have a general code of conduct for their employees. And even most employees have not cared to read the general code of conduct. So the question that we must ask ourselves, do we have a standalone bullying and dignity at work policy? A reporting mechanism truly confidential, because what happens when we have a scenario where the immediate supervisor is the one bullying the intern? What happens when the immediate supervisor is the one sexually harassing the employee? And I want us to understand that sexual harassment is not gender biased. We have scenarios where sexual harassment has come from the female gender. So a reporting mechanism truly confidential, are they accessible and trusted by staff at all levels? so that when an employee reports an incident, they are sure that they will not be laid off, that they will not be discriminated against. Number 4, have managers received specific training on recognizing, responding to, and preventing harassment and bullying? And lastly, is the socio-cultural environment included explicitly in the OSH risk assessment? One of the things that we do as International Safety Training Center is that we do workplace audits and inspection. But again, we must shift our focus, not from the physical hazards alone, but also to the psychosocial hazards. As I conclude, let me address the modern workplace, and then I will be done. Workplaces that are noisy, unstructured, or high pressure can substantially increase stress and reduce performance for neurodivergent employees. And therefore, what does neurodivergent mean? It means a person who's, or someone whose brain development and functioning diverge significantly from societal norms in areas of attention, communication, sensory processing, social interaction, and learning patterns. Do we have people with these conditions? Talk about autism, talk about ADHD. You know, people with these conditions are significantly affected by loud noise. They are significantly affected by lighting. And therefore, it is very important that as we factor in and as we think about a psychosocial environment for all, we must think about inclusivity. And therefore, what does inclusivity mean to us? It means a clear and consistent communication, where we have clear communication for all employees. It means flexible work design. It means supportive and trained supervision, where managers and people in charge of safety in the workplace, people in charge of employees and their welfare are being trained on how to deal with the neurodiverse people, because it is something that is strongly coming up in the workplace. People with learning disabilities, people with Down syndrome, people with cerebral palsy. It is therefore necessary and also important that we ensure that we create a psychosocial environment, quiet conditions, adjusted communication, where we have focused our attention also to address the neurodiverse group. So what are the practical strategies that we are able to use? Number 1, conduct psychosocial risk assessment, develop manager capability, redesign our work system, create safe reporting channels, build a culture of psychological safety and a psychosocial work environment, and lastly, measure, monitor, and improve. Continuous improvement is what is able to help us, where we are able to track issues of absenteeism, issues of turnover, incident rates, and employee engagement scores. And therefore, there's a real need. We are not only demanded but required to shift our focus from just compliance, so that I don't become an HR or I don't become a safety manager who is only focusing on compliance but also care. So that our concern shifts from reaction to prevention. So that we don't focus on policies but culture. So that we don't focus on only body protection but on the entire person, the whole person, ensuring that the whole worker is protected. The whole worker is protected. So that we don't react when there is an incident, but we prevent the incident from occurring. So that we don't rely only on policies that are never read, but on a culture that can be upheld and observed by everyone. Any question? Is there any question? I know I have rushed through this, but bear with me. Is there any question? Linda McCrane, do we have any question? Mwiki? Okay. If we don't have any question now, Naomi, you are present. You can greet us. Okay, Naomi, can you hear me? Okay. Thank you so much, Skylar. Thank you so much, Jay. I don't know if Naomi is present, but I will share the notes. I think it is very important that we continue with this conversation on psychosocial work environment and safety. Part of the things we do is that we do training on occupational safety and health. We do audits, and you can always engage us. We also do consultancy, so you can always engage us, and we're able to talk. Back to you, Jay or Skylar.
Thank you so much, Derek, for that wonderful presentation. I'm sure that I can see some comments in the chat section. I can see Samsung and Brian appreciating that the presentation has been so insightful. I would like to, if there are no questions, no comments, then I can hand the program back to Skylar. Skylar, you there?
Yes, I am here.
Sawa sawa.